not?
Every game?
Yep.
So,
or pass by,
finally.
yeah. So we get a Viego for Tian. You know, one of Tian's best champions is split as well, so feels like the right direction for top esports. And with their ban on Lucian, this time around we can't see the Lucian army in the bottom lane, but instead, for Light No Lwandy, might be hovering around the Xayah Rakan. No Senna, no Zeri, no Lucian means that we do go a particular path with Kalista Renata being banned away, with Kalista obviously pairing. Seems like the right direction for LNG in Game 2.
Yeah, I mean, LNG here definitely makes sense. Strong bottom side 2v2, but the issue is, yeah, you leave up something like Ezreal. You could even go something super roamy for Mark. You don't really have to play the 2v2 or just engage. Yeah, engage heavy as well.
Okay.
And you're pretty happy in this matchup, to be honest with you. 2v2, you might not necessarily have the most kill threat, but at the end of the day, JackeyLove on Ezreal, we know what he's capable of on that pick. And Top Esports having the agency with that Leona, it's just going to enable them later on in the game to, you know, have that go button, which definitely was lacking on the other side for LNG, which is why I like to see the Rakan come in, because definitely quite a few times in that game where it felt like LNG wanted to go and they simply couldn't.
Also, especially with the Trundle alongside it, feels like now we've got ourselves a bit more of a draft for LNG and Tarzan on something that can help support some of these lanes. So we don't get any solo laners in the first part of this draft, and that's the thing I want to pull out, because LNG start banning away the Silas. But Jamada, I want to ask you a little bit about direction here, considering we already have the Xayah Rakan in the bottom lane for LNG.
Yeah, okay, so I think for LNG here, you've got pretty good setup for a very strong team fight comp. I think more lockdown would probably go pretty well here. Rakan typically doesn't like functioning as a primary engager. Of course, you do have Tarzan on the Trundle to, you know, sort of be, I'm not going to say engage, but he will be a frontline and kind of like a mini taxi. So in terms of the bans, seeing Silas be removed away, it's just kind of a nice special. But yeah, I was going to point out the Gnar, I think is probably the next best thing. Though maybe as LNG, you would have liked to have banned away a counter to Gnar that you don't want the Wayward on and then take it yourself. It seems like they are not interested in that one. Maybe they're looking towards the Sejuani themselves. Take that one away from Wayward, give themselves another form of engage, and then you can round out the draft with Doinb on something that can really get the damage out there alongside Light on this Xayah. Top Esports though, see what they decide to remove away, because I think, yeah, I mean, I think it's the right call, honestly. I think it's definitely the right call. Now, like, you kind of call out something like the Camille as maybe the next highest prior top laner.
Specialty.
Left up in the meta, but Wayward very much would have a counter ready and available for it.
Also true.
If I had to wager a guess. And even something like, kind of hovered, something cool would have been like something like the Fiora towards Wayward. Arla, of course, though, a Fiora specialist. We'll see what Wayward wants to take into it, because I think, you know, my brain immediately divots to Jax would be kind of cool. It would suck maybe for the team fights, but side lane you would maybe have a bit of an avenue to play into. No need to flip it. Something like Gangplank would definitely bring the draft to a more stable team fight orientated situation where Wayward should have control of the matchup for the most part. Ale, I imagine, will know how to pilot this matchup from the Fiora point of view as well. But, I mean, rounding out the draft of Swain, so much AoE and sort of zone control would be available to Top Esports, and LNG would have a very tough time advancing forward.
I mean, Talia still fits that theme, right? A lot of AoE,
same thing. A
lot of mobility coming through as well, remembering that things like Ahri, Talia can move to some of these side lanes. We have globals in JackeyLove and Wayward's ulti. Adding team fighting in, I mean, Knight's still thinking about it. It will be the Ahri in the end, but I'm kind of interested because we still have something like the Lysandra up, which has been a common pick into the Ahris into the LPL.
Yeah, and I think Lys wouldn't have terrible value here, right? You've got two really slippery champions inside of Ezreal and Ahri. The issue is you're dealing with all that mobility, and then also if you would look towards Wayward, I mean, he's got the citrus fruit to cleanse it away, so it would kind of feel bad as the game gets super late on. So the answer for Doinb is this Swain, and now he himself will act as that kind of big buffering zone where maybe Top Esports can't very comfortably advance forward. I do like what LNG have put together in the sense of, all right, you've got the likes of the Rakan, who's going to have two very easy targets to bounce off of, right? Inside of that Trundle, inside of the Swain, try and set up for the Light as well to try and get some damage in. But I just look towards Top Esports and I say, very safe scaling, team fighting. The only thing they really lack is a little more frontline, but they make up for it in damage, and I think that's where the key difference will be. LNG, I look towards Ale on this Fiora and I say, I really want to maybe see you take over a side lane, how like we didn't get to see it in game one while she was on the Gnar.
So Ale control in the side lane, a good thing to look towards, especially when LNG in the second game have to pull out something. Game 1 was just kind of all over the place. It's what we talked about as a top team that really doesn't feel like a top team at the moment. Reflect back when we talked about LNG at the start of our segment, it was LNG, you know, struggling against teams like TT, BLG, which have been a bit of a flop at the start of the season. They lost to OMG in their last series. And against Top Esports, we saw the same remnants that we saw in spring, or at least in spring playoffs, that LNG were kind of all over the place. This might bring it together, maybe a more common goal. As you said, getting Arla accelerated here. But having a bit more options available for LNG, where it doesn't just all come down to the early game, it doesn't come down to how much damage they'll have into this front line. Instead, a little bit more balance this time, Jamada, as we enter Summoner's Rift, and ask the question as to whether LNG can participate in this series in a more competitive way.
I hope the answer is yes. I will say that. 3 games out of the Top Esports LNG matchup is probably like expected traditionally, right? But so far, it's just not been the case. That's rude.
Tian was trying to hover around Vision and get in there, but unfortunately, Arla was able to see him, and Mark wasn't able to burn the flash in the first level, because honestly, that would have happened, and it would have been a very horrible way to start. So Arla's safe for now.
Yeah, and also this brush ward is something that we've seen a fair amount whenever Fiora shows up, because she has been rearing her head a little more frequently than maybe people were anticipating since the durability patch has been out. Lane ward, just to have a little more control for the top side, so that whoever is matched into it can kind of have a better idea of what she's doing, maybe eyeing up, you know, vital Q proc out of the bush. So just having that additional bit of vision, what you might see Wayward do is once the lane phase starts, actually drop a ward in that second brush further up as well, just so there's complete control in that sense. We'll see though, but it does help out in that 1 versus 1 early on. Wayward on the Gangplank. One of my favorite champions, funnily enough. So I've been kind of treated today, yeah.
I mean, we've seen a lot here in the LPL as well. Our Gangplank's high and mighty too, especially when Wayward's had a decent performance on it too. Just a note, he played this a couple of times, has a decent KDA, 1 of 1 on the champion, but still he's second most played underneath the Gwen. And on the other side, a lot of LNG fans will know that Arla is kind of Camille, Fiora player. Arla has played this once before, and only once, as JackeyLove deals with Lwandy in the bottom lane. And we're going to continue to see trading here once again. Our eyes were pressed in the last game as JackeyLove and Mark pushed so heavily early on, but very different matchup as Light and Lwandy this time around have the pressure in the lane, and makes sense considering that we know how much of a threat Xayah Rakan could be early on in the game.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's always been like that since it's pretty much been released a couple of years ago. 2v2 is really, really strong. And of course, just the fact that some of their abilities work even stronger when they're together can catch you off guard if you're used to only laning against one or the other. But we'll see what Light and Lwandy can get done, because they should have priority for the first couple of levels, first couple of waves, where JackeyLove on the Ezreal shouldn't really be able to contest. Wave prio, they are giving it for now. Didn't really speak about junglers this game, but it seems like Tarzan has ended up towards the top side of the map, and Tian will do the exact same thing, just finishing out his full clear. Issue is Tarzan skipped to camp. Tian didn't. Timing could be the difference here.
Got him.
I think just briefly spotted, but I don't think it's going to matter. Wayward wants this wave under.
He's trying to buy time for Tian to come in. The flash is available. Pillar placement's good, but Wayward just sits there. Wayward just sits there. They know Tian's up there. That is the ultimate class move. If there is ever a time to call someone a Chad, once again, it's Wayward's time.
That's a Giga Chad moment right there from Wayward. He doesn't even back. He just stands there
just
menacingly and lets Tarzan walk out. 2v2 maybe, but
okay.
They should be okay.
He's going to get ignited, though, and as he dashes over to Light, saves the Summoner. That's good. Mark unable to follow him over the wall, as Tian and Knight were now moving down as well. So that was a Summoner trade from Mark, but HP for Lwandy getting burnt down means JackeyLove and Mark get to stay in the lane. And Jamada, I wanted to ask you a little bit about kind of what we expected in the early game, because we did talk about team fighting for top esports. You looked at LNG and you said there's a good response here with what they can do for Arla. You know, even we know their team fighting could be good as well. In the early game, what's kind of your expectation as to jungle priority and what you need to see out of either of these teams, whether it be, you know, a snowball effect, or we just want to see class coming out of the lanes and nice and easy?
I mean, so I think we've kind of already seen it a little bit from LNG, right? Tarzan tried to get the early gank up towards Wayward. Unfortunately, Wayward has had a very strong breakfast this morning, so was very happy to just kind of ward off that gank. But trying to get Ahri accelerated would definitely pay some pretty heavy dividends. But again, I feel like they have pretty decent team fighting tools to work with, right? So even if it's as little as just enabling those lanes, stopping Tian from, you know, kind of running into them. He has a pretty decent setup between Ahri, between the Leona lanes, but it's about actually finding lethal on top Esports' side, which it's going to be kind of difficult. Light, especially once he hits level 6, going to be very slippery. Rakan, naturally, very hard to pin down. Swain hasn't really been bullied in these first couple of levels, and I think in the next wave and a half or so, we'll hit level 6, and that's when he gets really hard to pin down. LNG, I think, just going to sit here and try and hit that team fighting mark, really, but the issue is that will allow top Esports to come online. Tian
gets a route down, but both summoners still up and available. Tian unable to force it out, just helps with the push for JackeyLove and Mark. As you spotted out here, Tarzan now comes over the wall and deals with the control ward. But Tian has been farming up a bit of a storm, about a camp and a half ahead of Tarzan for the time being. As Tarzan clears the rest of his, all he can do is set up for the bottom side scuttle. But with bottom priority here, Jamada, top Esports have themselves set up for the early dragon, and it seems Tian's going to start it off.
Yeah, Knight as well, mid lane priority. Shoves in Doinb right under the wave. Doesn't quite have level 6 just yet either. So if no ultimate available in the mid lane, this is a pretty free takedown from top Esports. LNG could maybe think about walking in after the deed is done, because I think Doinb could potentially hit level 6, but just a little too late, and LNG should have free passage out, though I think they maybe wanted the Skull Crab. That one's going to be jostled away at the very least.
Okay. So, Dragon goes down. Slower early game once again. I forgot to mention to the audience and to yourself, top Esports and LNG, you know, kind of some of our slower teams. A lot of people will look at top Esports and be like, well, you know, they're so bloodthirsty, they're fast action. Of course they're not slow, but in terms of game duration, you know, top Esports, over spring we saw this team slowed down quite a bit. Their mid-game problems helped that, but also it's not, you know, it's not like IG Lane Kingdom where that team won through lane, ended the game at 23 minutes, as B5 kind of did in their first game against WE. So kind of changing the identity of this team that has been known for a couple of years. But at the very least, we still know them as strong laners, as we can still see advantages there. As look in the bottom side, Cannon Barrage going to be used, that global pressure. JackeyLove looking for the auto on top of Lwandy, but he's out of range. Light able to get out as well. Lwandy burning the ignite, and Cannon Barrage now down from Wayward, as Ala will have the lane advantage.
Definitely a nice attempt there from top Esports, but still, even if they don't find the kill, they find the advantage, like you say. And, you know, to back up your point about top Esports definitely being a, you know, a faster team now than they were in spring, the only reason why they don't have the fastest average game time is because WE lose too fast, so they have the lowest average game time. So, yeah, top Esports have really ramped things up so far in summer. And see how they continue to do so. I think this game might be kind of potentially away from that trend a tad, just because I think the nature of the champions kind of means, you know, Gangplank wants to wait till level 13, realistically maybe level 11. Once you get that second point in Cannon Barrage and you have an item and a half or so, that's when you can start fighting. JackeyLove, we know about Ezreal, 2 items, and that's really when you can start to look to find some positive team fights. Of course, you can always end up with positive results, but that's when you want to probably proactively look. I think that's the key term to use for LNG. I think they're just going to sit here and maybe do the same thing. I'm not sure about, you know, realistically how they're going to match up to some of the damage that can be put out. The burst damage, I think, in particular, from the likes of a Gangplank can be a little bit scary to run into because the composition is relatively short range.
Hang on, Knight in the mid lane might be caught out. LNG doing a lot of damage here but don't have kill threat. Jamada, I just want to quickly come in and talk about what's going on the map, because LNG committed to the Herald, but JackeyLove teleported to the bottom lane. And with Light and Lwandy making their movement, especially Lwandy now on the map, Herald goes down, the map's traded off. It's LNG who get the most of it for now, but remember that Tian, as he comes in, will be able to help JackeyLove at least get close to a second plate here. But will it be anything further? At the very least, you know, JackeyLove getting some much-needed gold, so 3 plates for the trade of Herald, a little bit of advantage for now for top Esports.
Yeah. For now, top Esports, the immediate gold is in their favor. I'll let parry backwards. I'm not sure what that was about. But Tarzan, like you say, with Herald, now looking to try and accelerate somebody. We've spoken about how we wanted to try and have Ahri on this Fiora be boosted up in gold priority for now. I mean, we're going to see at least an attempt on Wayward's life.
All right, well, the flash comes forward. Wayward burns his own, but he's just dead. The grand challenge makes it so easy. And yeah, that top jungle 2v2 getting first blood for LNG is a godsend for this team.
Yeah, but the thing is, they can't drop the Herald here, which is maybe what they would have liked to have done in a more ideal world. The wave state, just not in a really good position where you'd want to do that. Ahri wants to hold a freeze. The issue is, he's also out of mana, so I'm not sure how that's going to work for the long play. For now, though, picking up First Blood, if you want to kind of count it as the extended cross-map play to top esports, picking up those plates, that'll feel good. JackeyLove not going to get rooted down on this instance, but LNG still finding First Blood, it's a positive, right? Having Ahri pick up some of that golden experience from it, really going to feel nice, but not being able to drop the Herald on the back end of it does maybe hinder how nice that play does actually end up feeling. Again, we'll have to look towards Tarzan and track him to see where he ends up putting it down. Because again, you know, putting it towards the likes of Light on this Xayah, or even giving it to Doinb, who's going to be a pretty, you know, irritating frontliner, I suppose, to deal with all of that AoE. It's going to definitely pay dividends. So it's really up to Tarzan and the rest of LNG to set up for that Herald to actually be successful.
But they do need something soon, because I will say that for top esports, like this early game, alongside the plate talk and, you know, the Herald trade you were just mentioning, LNG in the top side losing out 10 CS. Mid is 20 CS. Jungle 20 CS, even over that. In the bottom side, it's even, and at this point, JackeyLove's able to stay in the lane, even if Mark roams, because he's got the Essence Reaver versus a Noon Quiver with the pickaxe. So components only for the side of LNG, but we have a full completed item for the Ezreal. We are close to Wayward picking up his own. And right now, top esports really exploiting the early game with another dragon up here, Jamada. And they're all over it, even though Tarzan starts it. Knight's there, Tian's moving into position. Remember that Tian also has a level lead that he can attest to as this bird starts getting hit.
Cannon Barrage as well available from Wayward, so let's see how this one unfolds. LNG, they're going to try and burst it.
Tarzan not going to get hit by the True Shot Barrage. In fact, JackeyLove really misses, but the Soul Flare is good. Cannon Barrage in an awkward position. They turn for the bottom lane. JackeyLove burning his own flashes. Now it's on top of Mark, who's over the wall in the nick of time. But top esports have Knight coming in with the Spirit Rush. One more available. The charm lands. Here he is once again, but for Tian, unable to get the finishing damages, unable to get a reset. The Never Move not helping. The first one for top esports as Knight gets a reset. A second one there. It's Reset City with the jungle mid, but Tarzan's launched on by Mark, who was behind enemy lines. All of a sudden, top esports flare up, and LNG are dead.
For so long, I was like, how are LNG getting away with this? They were pinned up against the wall. No flashes available to actually get out of the situation they were in. Knight comes in, layers in so much damage, but they make it to the bottom side tier 1. And eventually, that's when the Reset City comes in. The Spirit Rush charges are refreshed, and there's just nothing LNG can do about it as they charge forward. The Cannon Barrage, like you say, awkwardly placed. It doesn't really slow LNG down as they advance onto Mark, onto JackeyLove. Mark forced to flash over the wall. But again, LNG, they're all pinned up against the wall. No one flashes over to chase on Mark. So now they have to retreat towards the tier 1 tower. The charm comes in onto Doinb. They're able to chase down, but for so long, LNG members just don't die. And eventually, what is it even? It's JackeyLove shifting forward, picks up Light, gives Knight the ability to charge forward again, and then finally more kills come through so that top esports can finally capitalize on what was so many low health bars.
Just a Knight on Ahri kind of thing as we come back to live, and the Herald now used the mid lane, but that play cost LNG so much in the second game. It's a 5k gold lead just about, you know, 4.5 to be technical, but Tian is unleashed here over Tarzan. 100 to 75 CS the difference. Divine Thunder are now picked up, and LNG just trying to grasp some control in this side lane, in this river, because Jamada at this point, top esports carries are well and truly in charge, and it's something you and I didn't get to talk about. If these skirmishes go long, if top esports get resets on Knight, on Tian,
oh yeah,
it's just a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about, you know, the likes of Wayward and JackeyLove hitting that 2-item spike. That's when they really want to fight, or obviously Wayward.
Okay.
Case is 13.
Yeah. He's okay with Tarzan. Subjugate's going to come through, but he's slowed down with the Chomp versus the Trundle as the emote goes up. He needs Knight. Grand challenge going to be there, and Knight can't save his life. Yes, still with the emote game, but at least a good pick for LNG.
He wins the hearts of the viewers, at the very least.
That's right.
Wayward, but gives over some gold to LNG. And yeah, like we were saying, I mean, we was talking about Wayward Needs a couple more levels, but it's all about Tian and Knight, right? Once they actually get a takedown in some of these skirmishes, like we just saw off the back of that dragon fight, that's when things can get really, really threatening. And again, even those resets that come in, they'll open up space for JackeyLove and Wayward. LNG though, finding that pick definitely buys them a little bit of space down towards the bottom side of the map. Objective bounties are up and available. Obviously, 5k down LNG find themselves, so a little bit of bonus gold could definitely go the distance when you consider that their champions as well do scale fairly well in this game, if you were to ask me. I think only one that could maybe have a bit of a problem trying to find some of their actual damage in is potentially Doinb, having to deal with so much mobility and range. But aside from that, Light, Arle, if he's on the side lane, should just be okay.
Especially with the Imperial Mandate build. I mean, for Doinb, it's not flat damage, it's not Leandri's. Supportive Swain build in the mid lane, so we're going to have our focus more on Arle and Light in terms of damage. At the very least, LNG with that pick we saw on our screen, it brought the gold a little bit closer together, but the problem is that top esports are just taking all these camps. They're taking away so many resources themselves. We're onwards and upwards towards 6,000, and JackeyLove and Knight able to pull out side turrets, mid turret now coming down as well, and LNG trying to pick them off. But I mean, at this point, Jamada, like, they're able to play so aggressive because even Tian is that far ahead.
Really a big hole LNG find themselves in.
Hello, I
mean, even already being shoved out of, vision this shallow in your jungle.
Yep.
It's got to feel really, really bad. Suffocation is going to start. Top esports, they're just going to look towards this dragon. Look towards the bottom side tower even as well, because that's a fairly stacked up wave to work with. And Tian even has the Herald if they want to use it, but don't even need to. Tier 2 goes down. All the carries going to pick up that gold. Mark hugs the wall to pick up the gold, and Cannon Barrage used on the top side to stop Arle from trying to find a faster cross map. Look how far away that next wave is too, so he's just going to go towards the jungle camps and buy this time, but it seems like LNG are just not going to contest.
I mean, 10 seconds still, Dragon comes up, Arle at the very least has TP, so as Knight is going to be contested over the Scuttle Crab and the Smite coming down, Everfrost's going to be used actually to contest this one. Going to require Mark as the Charm connects the Soul Flare on as well. The Zenith Blade ignite down. Tarzan about to die, and Jungler down before Dragon. It was top esports anyway, but now even more so as Arle chases down Knight, but he still has the Spirit Rush, which will be burned away from this Fiora while top esports get their prize that they're looking for anyway.
Get their prize and still have the Herald in their back pocket as well to just continue this pressure and gold snowball that they've been executing so well. Tarzan, kind of just a meaningless isolated death on the top side. Nothing more to say about it now. Lwandy looking for Knight.
All right.
And that's it.
And that's it. Yeah, there we go. Perfect.
Oh, what is it? Because JackeyLove and Mark.
It's going to hurt.
And there's no tower for Lwandy on Arle.
At this point, I don't know, Jamada. It's just hurting to watch because LNG every single time as JackeyLove chases us up. LNG can't really put a foot right. Once again, we're kind of seeing what we saw in the first game, but maybe more so what we saw in V5 versus WE. This does feel like a bit of a hands diff at the moment. And top esports, it looks like they're playing with two sets of hands in this game number 2.
Yeah, it's a good way to put it. It does feel like they've just got an extra pair of hands. It's like, what's an extra pair of eyes? Like, eyes looking at the screen and then the rest just looking at the map. Oh, there's someone here to murder? All right, cool, let's go.
Yeah.
Really, really consistent stuff from top esports at the moment. LNG, I mean, they don't even get to stop that Herald charge onto the top side, tier 3. So Tian could get caught out here at the very least. Would feel nice.
He's going to ulti out, flashes, and gets caught out. So LNG use 4 members to get the pick. And the response is nothing on the map. So at least LNG getting some gold back. But folks, we need a lot more of that. It's a 9k gold lead for LNG just about. And as Soul Flare comes through, forcing out Light's ulti. Wayward setting up the chain as well. Good Blade Caller as Knight with the Spirit Rush over the wall. Gonna make it worse. Light has to flash Everfrost away, but Knight hits away the Orb of Deception. That Ahri hurts so much, and even charming up by Lwandy, the chase will continue. One more piece of movement needed. He has Flash available, but he presses W instead. Knight truly is king of the mid lane, while Rookie is gone.
I think Knight is coming for LNG. To be honest with you, there's not too much light left in this game, to be honest, and I just don't know what they can actually do. Thank you. It was a really good line. I'm actually kind of impressed myself on that one.
Oh my God.
LNG just don't really have much to work on here. Yeah. It just feels really rough. If Knight is effectively able to, I'm not going to say 100-0 because Light was chunked out a little bit here. but doesn't even need to land the charm to execute Light here. I think it says a lot about how strong Knight is and how ridiculous Ahri is at the moment in this game. Lwandy as well. I mean, held onto the charm, didn't find it onto Light, just takes it down on to Lwandy with the red buff that he found from Light, able to chase it down and find himself a double kill. I mean, there's not too much to say about it. Top just felt like they had an opportunity to find the pick, and they just pulled the trigger. LNG not able to find the cross map anywhere. It just feels like for a very long time they've not been able to find any answers to what Top have been doing on the map.
I mean, Knight's got himself 10 stack Magi's, 215 CS at 20 minutes into the game. And in my comment before, you know, Rookie's not here, of course, on B5 is good Everfrost here and Knight on the top side. So much damage coming out. Knight was already in contention for best mid laner, and right now, he sure as hell is, as True Shot Barrage doesn't tag anyone, but Lwandy's ult coming through. Spirit Rush once again, the charm at max range. Not sure if it hit there as Grand Challenge denied on top of Mark, and Tian and JackeyLove have now joined in. One reset spells doom, as with a Spirit Rush forward onto Light, cleansed away. Knight continues to do so as JackeyLove. What's a bit of the action? Flashing forward. You expect the talent in this top esports roster to impress, and every game, somebody does. As onto Doinb with an arcane shift, forcing his flash out. LNG are a mess, but top esports are a bloody impressive leader of the LPL.
Top esports are dotting their I's and crossing their T's right now, and JackeyLove has been tired of seeing LNG run away from fight after fight. Ends up cleaning out Light and Lwandy with the help of Wayward's kind of barrage, and they will pick up this Baron, and they are going to certainly look to try and close out this game. 21 minutes on the clock, and LNG, I just don't really see what they can do at this point in the game. It's a nice, you know, attempt, I suppose, trying to find their pick on tonight. Originally, Mark does step a little bit too far forward, but again, it's just a really well-timed stopwatch. Stops so much burst from coming down onto him. That Grand Challenge would have 100% really chunked him out, maybe even just outright murdered him. And then from this point on, there's just nothing LNG really do. And JackeyLove, he just has the hell of it. I'm tired of all this running after Knight. Tries to find his way onto Light. Flash forward, arcane shift. So much damage comes out. Doesn't quite find the mark on Light, but that cannon barrage does. Yeah. That's all Top needed to round out the play. And now with Baron, you expect the base is next on the menu.
Well, you got a third dragon if you want it as well. LNG trying to contest this one. You said the base, but they're trying to kill Wayward. The problem is he flashes away. They've used so much burnt, so much space. And now with Doinb and Light coming in, they're confident, but Knight's behind enemy lines once again. Here's the Ahri. It's like we're watching The Shining, but as he cracks the axe through the door, Knight has to run away for a second. Still in for the fight as LNG turn back around on top of Mark, who dies first. LNG still haven't given over a reset to top esports, but Knight back on in with a charm, True Shot Barrage, and there's reset number one. JackeyLove still alive as well. And with Knight and Tian at the forefront, LNG still in trouble with numbers disadvantage. Orbit Deception coming through, hits Tarzan, and the reset given over the backline as Ala wanted to get Knight, but he charms him right in the face. Lwandy dead to an auto, and this roster has mojo, has Chad shift, and continues to bleed LNG dry.
They are bleeding them slowly in this game here. Well, actually, I take that back. It's a 13k gold lead, but LNG do their best. I mean, honestly, if this was an even fight, this is maybe okay. To be honest with you, finally see Doinb kind of get into the mix of things. Knight looking for a pick onto the backline, kind of gets caught out, but doesn't fully get locked down, and that's the crucial thing. You look towards the teamfight though. Look at Doinb, finally able to actually get into the mix a little bit. LNG as a whole, their damage dealers safe and sound. Someone who isn't safe and sound is Tarzan, though. Unfortunately, I think Knight.
Yeah, Light's here, but Knight charm, Orbit Deception, thanks so much. Light trying to save his jungler, Everfrost in.
Oh, no.
More members keep turning up, but hey, Knight would like a reset. JackeyLove wants a bit of the glory. You thought you could take him on. You were so wrong.
Mark?
Jamada.
Use this whole on that.
All I can say to you is top esports run into the base. With the death timers on our board, with Baron buff helping out. Lwandy poked down. Tian must be laughing right now. He looks at his old colleague in Doinb, his old mid laner, while LNG is struggling and Doinb is on a roster that has a lot of questions. Tian is prepping himself for a seed at Worlds. It might be early on, but at 5-1, top esports playing with their food look as deadly as a knife. Nexus exposed, kill credit going over. blood must be taken because the Blood God is on top esports. 909, it comes in the form of a fox. This Ahri looks maybe deceiving, but Knight still stabs you dead.
My word, what a dominating performance from top esports. Knight on the Ahri in particular, just put in so much work. LNG again, it just felt like it felt the exact same as game one. They just didn't have a leg to stand on. This time though, it was less about the draft and more about top esports just establishing dominance on the map through the mid lane and then eventually through the likes of Ezreal on JackeyLove. A phenomenal game, honestly. Again, LNG, they just didn't really have anything to play towards. It felt like there was no true win condition to lean on once they didn't get the Fiora rolling. Once, you know, Light and Lwandy didn't really have much to do with that Xayah Rakan lane. All of the agency was in the hands of top esports with Wayward, with JackeyLove, and of course, as we've mentioned already, Knight.
100% kill participation, by the way, as well. 19 kills for top esports. He's involved in all of them. 10, 0, and 9. And that on the Ahri kind of shows what we were talking about with Knight before the start of the series. We did Knight versus Doinb and Jamada in game one. Okay, Twisted Fate versus Galio. Knight still had the better off there. Doinb didn't really play that well. In game number 2, once again, this time around with the Ahri versus the Swain, Knight got out and started moving around in these fights and in front of the dragon, like, was insane. Knight is having another great split, and he's been having these splits back to back to back, it feels like. All I can say is that, you know, his performance at the last Worlds in 2020, when he finally made it, wasn't really that great. But domestically, this guy still shreds and is the best mid laner by rides currently within the league.
Fair statement. Honestly, I think Knight kind of just stamping that into reality with a performance like this. And I'm going to just say, you know, if he's not MVP for this game, I feel like he's
it would
robbed.
be rough.
I'm just going to say.
That wouldn't make sense.
It wouldn't make sense. I mean, you could maybe argue, you know, JackeyLove, he did put in a lot of work, especially once he finally had his 2 items. But let's be real, Knight was the true catalyst in this game. And like you say, looking like the strongest mid laner by a fair margin at the moment here in the LPL. And that high performance was just absolutely superb. And just enabling everybody so well.
Like, we've got huge mid laners, Jamada. Like, Dream is playing really well. I think Yagal is putting on a good show. We have Scout. We have, like, Doinb, who was just first. And while Doinb is getting the MVPs for LNG, I'm still really not convinced by this roster. There's people like Angel, Xiaohu, of course, is a big one as well. Mid lane talent in the LPL is massive. So, as we kind of go through and summarize what that series was it mid-diff? Well, maybe. There was a lot of stars in both games that made a difference, especially JackeyLove and Mark in the first one, who played a very good Kog'Maw Lulu game. It's hard to just go through and label one person, but it kind of has that V5 feel to it that you and I were discussing before.
Yeah, that sort of the trident form of attack where you can kind of lean on anybody, but I feel like even in Top's case, you can rely on Tian even to have pop-off games every now and again. In this game, though, wasn't too involved in terms of the damage, was definitely very involved in a fair amount of the kills, but it's all about Knight. Most damage, 36.9%. JackeyLove not traded too far behind, but the very impressive stat is the fact that Knight was involved in every single kill for top, and that is just kind of the underlying factor. He was the catalyst for this game to enable top esports to have so much success throughout just about every skirmish that they took. And LNG, again, we said, right, the composition, even in my head, as I'm trying to sort of draw some positives from it, I'm not sure what it really does. It's just Ale on Fiora to try and side lane maybe, and then you have a bunch of kind of zoning-ish tools between the likes of the Swain and the Xayah